The private dining room at Magnolia glittered under the chandeliers, but for Elara, the crystals felt as cold as the champagne in her glass. Her hand rested steadily on the white tablecloth, a stark contrast to the simmering tension in the room. From across the room, her sister, Nia, watched with a worried frown. Nia recognized Elara's battle face, the same calm she wore just before closing a major business deal, not the look of a happy wife celebrating 8 years of marriage. The mid-November air outside was crisp, but inside Magnolia, the elite Buckhead restaurant her family money had built, the atmosphere was thick with fake Southern hospitality. 30 guests, the cream of Atlanta's old money society, mingled and smiled, their whispers quietly acknowledging Elara's family status. Elara, poised in an elegant blue dress, played her part. She was the picture of wealthy Atlanta grace, but her eyes were alert, waiting. Her husband, Marcus, was a stark contrast. He was handsome, charismatic, and high on his own confidence. He played the perfect host, his hand resting possessively on Elara's back as he accepted congratulations. He was oblivious, or perhaps just arrogant, believing completely that he was the smartest person in the room. He didn't notice the steel in his wife's spine. Marcus's father, a loud man who always seemed slightly out of place in this refined setting, clapped his son on the back. "You sure got lucky landing this one, son," he boomed, loud enough for Elara to hear. Marcus just grinned, reinforcing the secret everyone seemed to know: he had married for money. Marcus raised his glass for a toast. "To 8 perfect years," he said, "and to my beautiful, supportive wife." He winked at Elara. He saw her silence as submission, a cultural misjudgment that she was the weaker, naive partner. Elara smiled back, a polite, empty gesture, and sipped her champagne. It tasted like nothing. She saw Marcus glance at his watch. He was preparing for his big announcement. She centered her breathing, just as her lawyer had advised. Marcus stood, tapping his glass for silence. The room quieted, expecting another loving speech. He looked at Elara, his smile wide but his eyes cold. "Marriage," he began, his voice strong, "is about honesty. Marcus is standing up to talk about honesty, but we can all feel the tension in that room. If you are still watching and ready to see how this unfolds, please let us know you're here by commenting with the number 8 below. And if you want to see exactly how our Queen Elara handles this, make sure you are subscribed to the Black King channel. Hit that notification bell, because you do not want to miss what happens next. Your support helps us continue to create amazing content just like this. Now, let's get back to the party. "I need to be honest with everyone here tonight," Marcus said, and then he gestured to his left. From the table next to theirs, a young woman in a tight red dress stood up. Elara's sister, Nia, half rose from her seat, her face pale with fury. The woman, Chloe, Elara knew from the investigator's photos, walked to Marcus's side and slid her hand possessively onto his arm. The room erupted in gasps and confused whispers. Elara's mother made a small, wounded sound. "This is Chloe," Marcus announced, his voice filled with a sickening, false sincerity. "I'm in love with her. This is the end for us, Elara." Chloe smiled, a smug, triumphant look as she and Marcus stared at Elara, openly expecting a scene. They believed this wealthy, dignified black woman, so concerned with family honor, would crumble quietly and accept her humiliation. The scene froze, but Elara's mind flashed back. 3 weeks earlier. It was 2 a.m., and she had woken up in their cold, empty bed. Marcus was working late again, claiming inventory issues at the restaurant. She padded downstairs and froze at the door to his study. She heard his voice, not the brisk, professional tone of a businessman, but a low, warm tone he hadn't used with her in years. "I can't wait," he was whispering into the phone. "Wear that dress I like. Soon, I promise. We'll figure it out." The betrayal was so sharp, so clear, that Elara couldn't breathe. She didn't confront him. At 3 a.m., she drove to Nia's house. Nia, holding a silk robe closed, listened as Elara recounted the whispered words. Nia's face hardened. "Cheating?" "Elara, I told you 8 years ago," Nia said, her voice a low hiss. "That man didn't fall in love with you. He fell in love with our family's bank account." The next morning, Marcus had crept into bed at 4 a.m. He woke her with a kiss on the forehead, talking about the new menu. Elara, hiding her shattering knowledge, smiled, nodded, and handed him his coffee. That very afternoon, Elara didn't cry. She hired Atlanta's most expensive private investigator, Tom Patterson. She met him in a discreet coffee shop far from her Buckhead neighborhood, her mind already cold and clear, echoing her sister Nia's words. He fell in love with our family's bank account. Within days, Tom provided the first packet of photos. Marcus and Chloe at a hotel, Marcus and Chloe at a jewelry store, looking at rings. Elara looked at them, her face stoic. This was evidence, not heartbreak. At their second meeting, Tom Patterson looked grave. "Ms. Hayes," he said, sliding a second folder across the table, "this isn't just an affair. As you requested, I looked into the business finances. Your husband has been moving money." Elara's blood ran cold. Large amounts, close to $200,000 over the last 6 months, transferred to a private account only he controls. This was the real betrayal. He wasn't just leaving her, he was robbing her. This was the theft her sister had warned her about. Elara's next stop was the sleek, high-rise office of Patricia Holmes, the 60-year-old lawyer known for handling Atlanta's messiest Buckhead divorces. Elara laid out the photos and the bank statements. Patricia listened, her expression unchanged, taking neat notes. "And the prenup?" Patricia asked. They reviewed the document. Elara remembered the day it was signed. She saw a brief image of a younger Marcus, laughing it off as he signed. "An infidelity clause? Baby, you'll never need that," he'd said. Patricia looked up from the document. "This clause is iron-clad," she said, a small, dangerous smile touching her lips. The moment he announced that affair, he voided his claim to the restaurant. For the next 2 weeks, Elara and Patricia prepared. They gathered the bank statements, the checks she had signed, Tom's evidence, the formal police complaint for felony embezzlement, and the divorce papers citing both infidelity and financial crimes. "He'll be planning to control the narrative," Patricia warned her. "Let him. The law is on our side." The day before the party, Elara held the finalized manila envelope. "He's going to do it at the party, isn't he?" she asked. Patricia nodded. "He thinks he's humiliating you. He's actually just handing you the keys." The scene snapped back to the present. Marcus and Chloe were still smirking at the head table. The room was deathly silent, the guests waiting for the tears. Elara, showing no emotion, picked up her wine glass and took a slow, deliberate sip. "Thanks for the heads up," she said quietly. "And we are back at the dinner party." Elara just took a sip of her wine while Marcus and Chloe smirk, thinking they've won. They have no idea what she's been planning for the last 3 weeks. If you are still watching and you are ready to see her finally make her move, let me know you're here by commenting with the number 8 below. This is the moment of truth. If you haven't subscribed to the Black King channel yet, I strongly suggest you do it right now and turn on that notification bell. You do not want to miss what's in that envelope. Your support helps us continue to create this amazing content that informs and inspires you. Now, let's get back to the action. Marcus blinked, his confident smirk faltering into confusion. This tearless, calm defiance was not the reaction he had prepared for. The room was so quiet he could hear the ice melting in his water glass. He had expected sobbing, begging, perhaps a dignified, tearful exit. He had certainly not expected this cold, almost bored acceptance. Elara, meanwhile, remembered her lawyer Patricia's words. "He thinks he's humiliating you. He's actually just handing you the keys." Elara calmly reached into her elegant purse. She didn't pull out a tissue. She pulled out a thick, standard-issue manila envelope. She stood up smoothly, the silk of her blue dress shimmering. Every eye in the room, frozen in shock, followed her as she walked around the table. She ignored Chloe completely, as if she were a piece of furniture, and stopped directly in front of Marcus. He took the envelope automatically, his confusion visibly turning to fear. "Since we're being honest tonight," Elara said, her voice clear and strong, cutting through the silence, "I have something for you too." She then turned, scanning the stunned faces of her friends and family. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice gracious. "Dinner is paid for. Please stay and enjoy the meal." She looked across the room and nodded once to Nia, who was already on her feet, purse in hand. As Elara turned to leave, Marcus finally reacted, grabbing her arm. "What's in the envelope, Elara?" he demanded, his voice dropping its charming facade. Elara pulled her arm away with a look of pure disgust. "Your future," she said. "Or lack of one." Chloe, seeing her moment of triumph slipping away, let out a high-pitched laugh. "You're pathetic," she sneered. "Just accept it's over." Elara looked at Chloe directly for the first and only time, her eyes like ice. "I accepted it 3 weeks ago when I found out about you," Elara said coldly. "Everything I did after that was just preparation." Marcus's face went white. What do you mean 3 weeks ago?" he stammered. Elara didn't answer. She and Nia turned and walked toward the exit, their heads held high. Behind them, just as they reached the door, they heard the sound of paper tearing. Then the first scream, high-pitched and full of disbelief. No, this can't be legal." Elara and Nia stepped out into the cool Atlanta night air, and for the first time in weeks, Elara finally let herself breathe. The sounds of Marcus's screaming faded behind them, replaced by the distant city traffic. "Elara! Elara!" his voice echoed one last time, but she didn't turn around. In the car, Nia squeezed her sister's hand. "What did you do, Elara? What was in that envelope?" Elara finally allowed a small, cold smile. "Divorce papers," she said, buckling her seatbelt. "Transfer documents for the restaurant, citing the prenup's infidelity clause. Bank records showing the $200,000 embezzlement. And the formal police complaint I filed this afternoon." Nia stared, then slowly smiled back. He forgot he married a CEO. The next morning, Elara met Patricia at her office. Her phone, now turned back on, was a useless brick of missed calls and furious texts. "Marcus's lawyer has already called," Patricia said, handing Elara a coffee. "He's frantic. He's trying to negotiate, offering a 60-40th split." Elara sipped her coffee. "No," she replied. The legal battle was brutal but short. Marcus had zero leverage. The prenup was iron-clad, and the evidence of felony embezzlement was undeniable. He was facing criminal charges. "Where is Chloe now?" Elara asked during their final meeting. Patricia smirked. "She found out the money was frozen," she said, reviewing a report from the PI. "According to Tom, she was on a flight back to her parents' house in Ohio this morning. She left him a note." Faced with total ruin, Marcus settled, signing away everything to avoid a longer prison sentence for the theft. In a sterile courtroom, the judge finalized the divorce, granting Elara full and sole ownership of Magnolia. Patricia handed her the signed documents. "It's done," she said. "Magnolia is 100% yours." Elara stood in the empty dining room of Magnolia a few days later, her restaurant. The staff watched her nervously from the kitchen doorway, whispering, wondering if they still had jobs. "Good morning," Elara said, her voice steady and clear, echoing slightly in the quiet room. "Let's have a staff meeting in 10 minutes." 2 years later, the chandeliers at Magnolia glittered again, but this time, they felt warm. The restaurant was packed, not for a fake anniversary, but for the launch of Elara's cookbook, Magnolia: A New Beginning. Elara had transformed the space. The old, stuffy decor was gone, replaced with modern art from Black Atlanta artists. The restaurant was more successful than ever. Elara, unlike Marcus, had shared the profits, giving the entire staff raises. Her leadership was collaborative, not controlling, and the atmosphere in the kitchen was creative and loyal. She had also established a Sunday supper series, a throwback to nostalgic, soulful family meals that became wildly popular with the older Atlanta crowd, who loved the sense of community. She also launched a mentorship program for young underserved chefs in the city, reinvesting her success back into the community. Tonight, the room was filled with joy. Nia stood up to give a speech, raising a glass. "To my sister," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "who reminded this entire city what real strength looks like. She's the only one who ever really signed the checks." The room cheered. Later, as Elara signed a copy of her book, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Marcus. "Hi, Elara. This is Nathan." He had even used the wrong name, a final, fitting insult. "I saw your cookbook. It's beautiful. You deserve all the success. I'm sorry for everything." Elara read the message, felt absolutely nothing, and deleted it without replying. A young, black, female chef from her mentorship program came up to her, her eyes shining. "Miss Hayes, what you're building here, it's changing things. For people like me." Elara smiled, a genuine warm smile, realizing her victory wasn't just taking back the restaurant, but transforming it into something better. She looked over her bustling, successful dining room, filled with happy customers and loyal staff. She raised her own glass, alone but not lonely, and quietly toasted herself. She was finally, truly free. In the quiet aftermath of betrayal, true strength isn't found in revenge, but in reclamation. This story reminds us that we must never underestimate those we wrong, because a person's worth is never defined by another's prejudice or greed. Like the turning of the seasons, the respect we deny others often finds a way of leaving us cold and alone. But for those who build their foundations on integrity and intelligence, their success, like Elara's, becomes an ending that is truly and rightfully their own.